Farial, from today onward, you will not stay in this room. This room belongs to my daughter, Farida.
Mother, but Ahmad is still very young, and the weather is unbearably hot.
I don't want to hear another word, Hamida Begum snapped. And just like that, Farial and her innocent little son were forced out of the air-conditioned room. They were sent to a small, cramped, suffocating room filled with heat. A room where even breathing felt difficult. But the real question was, why did Hamida Begum hate Farial so much? What had Farial done to deserve such treatment? At that moment, even Farial didn't know the answer. She always thanked Allah for what she had. While she suffered in silence, her husband Razak was thousands of miles away, working abroad day and night, pushing himself beyond his limits, all for one reason, so that his wife and son would never feel deprived. So they could live comfortably, eat well, dress well. Before leaving for another country, Razak had held his mother's hand tightly. Mother, Farial and Ahmad are my responsibility, my trust. Please take care of them. At that moment, Razak had no idea that the very people he trusted the most were about to change Farial's life forever. And what happened next was far worse than anyone could have imagined. Time passed, and Farial's hardships only grew worse. From the first call to prayer at dawn until late into the night, every responsibility in the house rested on her shoulders. Washing dishes, cleaning piles of clothes, sweeping floors, mopping every corner, cooking meals for everyone. It felt as if the entire house depended on her alone. Day after day, the work never ended, and neither did her exhaustion. Meanwhile, Hamida Begum and Farida spent their days in comfort. They sat inside a cool, air-conditioned room, enjoying cold drinks, eating delicious meals, laughing together, living a life of ease. And when they were finally done eating, whatever food was left behind was placed in front of Farial. No fresh meal, no respect, just leftovers. Yet, Farial never complained. Not because she couldn't, but because her biggest concern was Ahmad, her little son. As long as he was fed, she was willing to endure anything. But the cruelty didn't stop there. Whenever Razak sent money from abroad, or lovingly purchased new clothes and gifts for his family, those gifts rarely reached the person they were meant for. Instead, most of them somehow found their way to Farida. The beautiful new dresses, the thoughtful presents, even the money. Little by little, everything was taken from Farial, and in return, she was handed old, worn-out clothes, clothes that others no longer wanted. Yet she remained silent, not because the pain wasn't there, but because she had learned to hide it. And little Ahmad, the innocent child who should have been surrounded by comfort and love, was growing up in the same deprivation as his mother, watching, learning, and quietly enduring. No one paid attention to him. No one imagined what was happening inside that young mind, because to everyone else, he was just a child. But sometimes, it is the people who seem the smallest who end up changing everything. And no one knew that very soon, little Ahmad was about to do something so unexpected, something so extraordinary, that Hamida Begum and Farida's lives would never be the same again. But before that day arrived, there was someone else whose heart was filled with a different kind of darkness. Farida. From the very beginning, she had carried a strange jealousy toward her sister-in-law. A jealousy that grew stronger with every passing day. Farida would sit beside her mother and whisper poisonous words into her ears. "Mother, did you see that? Look at the expensive clothes Farial wears. My brother works so hard and she spends all his money on makeup, fancy clothes, and her own desires. Why does she even need all these expensive things?" At first, Hamida Begum paid little attention to such comments. She would listen, then move on. But poison rarely works all at once. It spreads slowly, drop by drop, day after day, word after word. And Farida never stopped. Every morning, she had a new complaint. Every evening, she had a new accusation. Every conversation carried another seed of doubt, and before anyone realized it, those seeds had begun taking root. Slowly, then one day, Razak left the country for work. Like millions of men chasing a better future for their families, he packed his bags and went abroad. He believed he was securing a comfortable life for his wife and son. But the moment he left, something changed. Farida felt as if the final obstacle had disappeared. The one person who could defend Farial was gone. And now, no one remained to stop her. Almost every day, Farida would leave her in-laws' house and come to her mother's home. She made herself comfortable in the cool, air-conditioned room, alongside her mother and her son. The room remained filled with comfort. Delicious meals were prepared, cold drinks were served, laughter echoed through the room. Life seemed perfect, at least for them. But on the other side of the house, a very different reality existed. While they relaxed in comfort, Farial worked tirelessly. In the scorching heat, sweat running down her face, her hands never resting, her feet never stopping. Cleaning, cooking, washing, serving, hour after hour, without appreciation, without comfort, without complaint. Because while Farida believed she had finally won, she had no idea that her actions were bringing her closer to a moment she would never forget. And when that moment arrived, everything she had built on jealousy and hatred would begin to collapse. The kitchen, the cleaning, the laundry, the dishes, day after day, the same endless routine. At times, it no longer felt as if Farial was the daughter-in-law of the house. It felt as though she had become a servant. But there was someone else watching all of this, silently, carefully. A pair of innocent eyes that missed nothing. Little Ahmad. He was still young, very young, but not so young that he couldn't recognize the difference between kindness and cruelty. Not so young that he couldn't feel rejection. Sometimes, out of simple curiosity, he would wander into the cool, air-conditioned room, the room where he had once laughed, played, and spent time with his parents. But the moment he stepped inside, Farida's voice would cut through the air. "What are you doing here? Go outside. This is not your place to play." The harshness in her tone would instantly freeze him. And before he could even respond, Hamida Begum would join in. "Didn't you hear her? Go outside." The room would suddenly feel colder than ever, not because of the air conditioner, but because of the people inside it. Ahmad's innocent face would fall. The small smile on his lips would disappear. His eyes would fill with sadness. and without saying a word, he would quietly walk away. Perhaps he didn't fully understand what was happening. Perhaps he couldn't put it into words, but he could feel it. He ran toward the only person who made him feel safe, his mother. Faryal was standing in the kitchen. Ahmad tugged gently at her clothes. His eyes were red, his voice shaky. "Mom, when Dad was here, we used to stay in that cool room, didn't we?" For a moment, everything stopped. Faryal's hands froze. Her heart felt as if it had forgotten how to beat. The pain of that question hit harder than any insult she had endured. But she couldn't let Ahmad see her break. Not now, not ever. So she forced a smile onto her face, a smile hiding 1,000 wounds. "Yes, my son, we did." Ahmad remained silent for a few seconds, as if gathering courage for the question that had been living inside his heart. Then he looked up at her with complete innocence. "Then why can't we stay there anymore?" A pause, the kind of pause that hurts. And then he asked the question that shattered her heart. "Has Dad become angry with us?" The words struck her like a knife. For a second, she could barely breathe. Because children don't understand cruelty, they look for reasons, and when they can't find one, they often blame themselves or the people they love. Tears rushed to her eyes, but she quickly pulled Ahmad into her arms before he could notice, holding him tightly, as if trying to protect him from every pain in the world. "No, my precious child, no. Your father loves us very much. He loves you more than anything. He's working far away from home, working hard for us, so that we can have a better future." As Ahmad rested his head against her chest, Faryal looked away, because the tears she had been hiding for months were becoming impossible to hold back. And in that moment, she made a silent promise to herself. No matter how much pain she endured, she would never allow her son to lose faith in his father. But neither Faryal nor Ahmad knew that destiny was quietly preparing something extraordinary. Because very soon, this innocent little boy would take a step that no one expected, a step that would expose every hidden truth. And when that day came, nothing in this house would ever be the same again. But there was still one question left in Ahmad's heart, one question that Faryal knew the answer to, but could never bring herself to say out loud. The little boy looked up at her and asked softly, "Then why were we forced to leave that room?" For a moment, Faryal couldn't speak. Her lips trembled, her throat tightened, because she knew that if she told him the truth, if she told him how his own family had treated them, a seed of hatred might grow inside an innocent heart, and that was something she could never allow, no matter how much she suffered. She took a deep breath, fighting back her tears, then gently said, "My son, sometimes difficult times come into our lives, but Allah sees everything. He knows everything." Ahmad listened quietly. Then he reached up with his tiny fingers and wiped the tears from his mother's face. What he said next broke her heart and healed it at the same time. "Mom, don't cry. When Dad comes back, I'll tell him everything." The innocence in his voice was unbearable. Faryal could no longer hold back her tears. They rolled down her cheeks as she pulled him into a tight embrace, holding him as if he were her entire world. Then one night, the unbearable heat became too much. The temperature kept rising. The air inside their tiny room felt suffocating. And suddenly, Ahmad developed a high fever. At first, Faryal thought it might pass. But within hours, his condition became frightening. The little boy could barely move. His body grew weaker, and before long, he was lying helplessly in bed, burning with fever. Faryal felt her world collapsing around her. Again and again, she placed her hand on his forehead, and every time she did, her heart shook with fear. His skin felt hotter than before, his breathing was becoming heavier, and the fear in her chest continued to grow. Finally, unable to bear it any longer, she rushed toward the air-conditioned room. The same room she had been thrown out of. The same room where Hamida Begum and Farida were sleeping comfortably.